welcome back. And the registration link is in the chat. Please do register for the final part of D3 and React charting. Okay, please do register for it. Don't forget to. And not going to waste too much time. Let's get right into it. So, what I had to push. So currently, you can actually see what I pushed, which is right here. There you go. Initial stock chart, and it just has what we changed. Okay, cool. And ignore everything else. That's like I should also not waste time on CSS. So what I've done is I've taken the liberty of adding the CSS. Okay, but I'll talk about it once we start adding those components. I do not want again to waste time. Okay, let's go over to our stock chart code. So now that we have historical chart created, we have handle stock change. Now we actually move to the part where we do the charting. Okay, so I hope you all are excited for it. Sorry, it's just some excitement here from me. Moving back, moving away this one so that you have full focus on the screen. Let's draw a chart. Also, if you are like, why do I have this color theme on such a bright one? This is because my lights actually interfere with the camera position, so they leave a streak of like light which looks very weird. And yeah, that is why I have it all the way to the bright light, which I don't like, but it is what it is. Okay, anyway, so historical data, handle stock change, not stock exchange. And now let's do a const draw chart. Right? This is our main function. So we start by using a use callback. So use memoizes a value. Okay, so it will recompute the value when these dependencies change. Use callback is going to memoize a function. Okay, it is used for memoizing a function. When we say memoize, what we basically mean is that so everything that you create technically has what do you call has some space in memory. It takes up some space in the memory, the JavaScript memory. And if you have learned about C programming, then you know that there will be some pointers, some references, and every time there is a re-render, do you need to create those references is a question. So to answer that question, the answer is simply no, not for everything. Example, we do not need to recalculate this historical data, which exists inside this function stock chart, every time React updates the DOM. Why? Because the only time this needs to be recalculated, as we have decided, as we have understood, is whenever the selected stock changes, then we need to check if there is some data of it in our session storage or not. Or if the stock data itself changes. If they don't change, then for whatever reason, if React decides to re-render the DOM or add or batch all those virtual updates and add it, we don't need to recalculate this. So it uses the same value in the same memory location after re-render. Similarly, callback is for function definition. So if I have a function definition, do I need to redefine that function if, let's say, selected stock changes? In this case, yes, if it does, or even if stock data changes or historical data changes. But if the wait timer ref changes, do I need to redefine this function? No, not really. Okay, so this is why we have these parameters which say, you know what, do this calculation if and only if one of these values change. One of these values, okay? It can be one, it can be two, it can be all. If one of these values change, do the calculation. Okay, so now in the draw chart, let's see if uh actually I first need to create a reference, right? I'll need to create a reference to our svg element. So below this wait timer ref, I'm going to say const svg ref, which is going to be a use ref, of course, use ref, and it will be a use ref for svg element, or it could be null. Similarly, I need later on a tooltip that we will have, which will again be a use ref. Going to copy paste this, but instead of this one, it would be actually a html div element, or it could be null. So we'll show a tooltip over the stock that we have. Okay, now let's go in here, and now we are ready. We are going to say that if there is actually a svg ref, then and only then proceed. So defensive programming, if there is not an svg ref, if there is not a current svg ref dot current, if that does not have a value of there, or there is no selected stock, or there is no stock data, or the historical data dot length is actually 0. So for all of these reasons, just in all of these cases, just return. Okay, return outside of this use callback function. Very simple. uh, Otherwise, what I want you to do is just do some console logging and say that you are drawing chart for which stock, which selected stock. So with how much did actually this is fine. Okay, cool. Next, uh, okay, let's start with the tooltip ref. So I'm going to say if there is no tooltip ref dot current. So if tooltip ref dot current does not have a value, which means that this does not exist, then we are going to be creating a tooltip. A tooltip equals to a div, like we are going to create a div element. So document dot create element. We know what this does. It creates a new element in the DOM, and I'm going to say tooltip dot class name is equal to tooltip. So this is to give it some css. Tooltip dot style dot display. It will not have any sort of styling. It will all depend on whatever is the style provided by tooltip class, and we will set the tooltip ref dot current equals to tooltip. We are updating the value, and document dot body dot append child, and we'll add this tooltip. Nice. So we take this tooltip that we have created, a div element, and we assign it to the tooltip reference that we have, we are holding, assign it to the current value of it, and we then create this tooltip element in the DOM. Okay. Uh, won't be visible right now. But there should be stock chart control, select box, and okay, currently not in use. No one is calling it, so that is why it's not showing, but afterwards you can see it in the DOM. Okay, moving on to the next bits. So this is us creating a tooltip. Next is when we create a chart, step one, we first should delete, start with clean slate. So I'm going to say if there is a previous svg ref dot current, then select all elements of that and remove it from the DOM. We actually saw this remove. This is a D3 functionality. Uh, yeah, const width. Now this is the width of the chart. So I'm going to say svg ref dot current dot client width minus whatever is the margin dot left. Also remove the margin dot right. And similarly, I'll have height, which is depending. So client basically in this case would mean the available area. So client height minus margin dot top and minus margin dot bottom. Okay, so we had, like, we'll remove this much part from the chart, we'll remove some parts from the bottom, and whatever is the area left is where we will do the charting, complete charting. Next, we know how to create an svg element thanks to our previous sessions. So d3 dot select, we used to provide it an id. In this case, the ID would actually be svgref dot current dot append. We append a group element and dot attribute, and we add a transform, which we know what it does, and then we do a translate, and we know what that does as well. So margin dot left, comma, margin dot top. Okay. Next is the x-axis, which is based on time. So we know again, so x equals to d3 dot scale time, yes, scale time. And then what is the domain? Domain is basically the range. So the range of this scale, this x-axis, should be right from the start of the historical data, and d, which is of type historical data point, d dot date as, and we'd say that it is of type date comma date. Perfect. And then we do a dot range, and it goes from the 0th coordinate to the whole width. So this is to create a x-axis. Next, create a y-axis, and we do a d3 dot. It is a linear scale, so scale linear, and dot domain. So domain again is the range. So you go from what? You go from find the minimum of from the historical data, loop over each part, which is a historical data point, and find the d dot price. Okay, so find the price. Now you have to calculate the minimum from of historical data between 2 points. Okay, which 2 points? I am going to say that find the price. Okay, and now it is not going to be happy about it. So let me typecast it saying that this will be a number actually. uh, okay, so you start your y-axis minimum from this. uh, mm, mm, um, let's see, we should start from something from here. Okay, so I'm going to multiply it by 0.95, which means it will be 5% below the minimum. And now we also need a maximum till when, up until where the scale should go. So let's do d3 dot max, And again, for the historical data, go over the historical data where historic D is of type historical data point, and this contains D dot price. Check that, typecast it to as number, and go 5% above the whatever is the maximum that you get from here. So if let's say this returns, so this will return a price. So we are, let's say, plotting Apple stock. Current price is 91.80. If let's say this is the maximum price, the y-axis should show 91.80 plus 5%. Let's say that is 92. So y-axis will be up, maximum up until 92. Minimum, let's say the minimum price of Apple stock was 50. It will be, let's say, 45. Okay, whatever is 5% below the minimum. And the range for this should actually be, you know that it in SVG it starts from the top corner. So if as you go down it is positive, so that is why I go from height to 0. Okay, so this is positive, but it also, this is maximum, and this will need, we are reversing the axis, if you remember. Now we will append these two elements. So we'll append a group. We have done most of this before, so this would be a nice refresher to see that, oh, in React it's not very difficult. It is basically JavaScript. It's technically React is JavaScript, right? Translate, and we will say 0 to $height. And then we have a new method called as call. I think we had done this. Yes, the call was to actually bind that, if you remember. So D3 dot axis, this would be on the bottom axis, X, and dot ticks to show how many ticks, and that would be 5, and dot tick format. Hmm. So tick format, I'm going to say this is going to be a function. It is going to be of time format. Okay, and it would show hours, minutes, seconds. Okay, and now it is unhappy because it's like, what you're saying, what is this type? So let's just say D as date. Assume that it is date, not assume, typecast it to a date format. Perfect. So now call is happy. It knows that this is returning a date from here. Okay, and now append, we are going to add some text to this, and that also, if you remember what this was doing, we want to center that text whatever we create. So I'm going to do whatever is the whole width divided by 2, and dot attribute the height, how below should it be below the axis. I'm going to just have a random number, let's say 40 below. Dot attribute, fill it in current color, let's say, and dot attribute, let's say, text dash anchor, and this will be in the middle, and the text itself should be time. Okay, so we will have an axis here, don't worry about it for the time being. This is what, yeah, what will come here. Let me also very quickly, so there's my select. After the select, let me have stock data, and let's create a div here. And in this uh, div, let's say stocks. For the timing, let's leave it like this. And I also want to create a with class name chart dash area. So let's quickly add some checks here. We'll say if not selected stock. So if you have not selected a stock, in that case, we will show a div with, let's close this. It's called a class name as chart dash placeholder. Please select a stock. Okay, so we'll say if you have not selected a stock, of course we want to show if like please select a stock, else if not data ready. Okay, so if data ready is false, in that case I want to show another div saying please wait for whatever is the wait time for data seconds before selecting stock. And here we can just do another else, and we can say svg element is what we are going to create here, and we pass it a reference of svg ref, and we can set a width to be, let's say, 100%. That would be a string actually. So width 100%, height would be again 100%, and we can give it a class name of D3-chart. Okay, so we have created a SVG element. Currently it says please select a stock. If I go to select a stock, it shows this, and there are data points, of course, in this. We are not plotting it, but that does not mean that it does not exist, right? Okay, so this has a reference to our chart area. If I take it on the right, then whatever is here is our chart area. I'll need to improve this styling. I don't know why it looks that bad. Okay, cool. Anyways, going back, let's see. So we have created most of our things. What's next? So right now we were in the middle of adding that SVG ref. I definitely want to finish at least drawing a line before ending this session. So this will show time, and then we can copy and paste this, and let's make some changes. We need to show on the y-axis something, so dot append group, and don't need to do a transformation here. We can just directly call the d3 dot axis. This will be on the left hand side, so dot axis left, and this would actually be calling the y, and we don't need the number of ticks. This is fine, and the tick format would actually be money, right? So I'm just going to do d3, not even d3, let's just say a string where the first dollar is the dollar USD. Let's write USD, and then here we pass the data and dot append text transform. Let's do a transform here. Or actually, we can do a dot attribute. Say a transform, and we want to rotate the text by 90 degrees. So rotate and minus 90. And on the x-axis, it should be whatever is the height divided by 2, and negative because we need to go down. And on the y-axis, we need to be at least minus 40 away from the axis. And fill would be current color, text anchor middle, and this text would say price in dollars. Okay, so this is where the axis would come. Currently, it says please select a stock, which is fine. Cool. Now, the next bit, we need to calculate the price change statistics so that we can use that to have different colors. So I'm going to say const price change stats equals get price change stats, which is a function which depends on the historic, which takes one input, which is historical data in this case. And we can say const change color equals to price change stats dot, if it is positive, then in that case have a green color, else go for a red color. uh, Actually, we can use one of our previous projects, color conjure. I need a green, so go in the green area and give me a nice green. We'll take this one. And I need a red, so go in the red and give me something brighter. There we go. That's our red. Okay, now let's draw a line. We have done this before, so it should not be very difficult. So svg dot append, and we need to append a path, and dot datum, which is singular for data, if you remember, historical data, dot attribute, and we will say that it has a class of line dash path dot attribute. We are going to have fill none for our line. Again, remember what happens if fill is not none, it actually adds that color around. Again, dot attribute, since it is a line, it needs to have a stroke color. I'm going to say that it depends on whatever is the value of change color, which will again keep changing. And also we need to assign some stroke width. Okay, so dot attribute is stroke dash width, and I'm going to set that to 2. And dot attribute d, if you remember, which we had done for plotting a line as well. Now we are going to say d3 dot line. Okay, we need to plot a line. The line will be of type historical data point dot x. Okay, where on the x-axis you need to plot the date. So d, which is every data point, is of actually type x of d dot date, and dot y. Okay, you have to plot some data points for this as well, which is of type historical data point. This is just to keep our type happy, and it is calling this function, and on the y-axis we want to plot the price. Perfect. And now we add the data points itself. So we show svg dot select all dot data dash point, which is a class which will be unique, dot enter dot append, and we append the class which is data dash point. Oh, not append. We need to append a circle. What am I doing? You need to append a circle. So this is to draw Circles and attribute would be class data point. A circle needs to, if you remember, it needs to have cx, okay, cx, cy, radius, and then a fill. This was from our first session that we did with SVG. The only reason why I actually focused on SVG was so that we don't have to go through this again. D, which is of type historical data point, we need to bind it to xd dot date, and let's come out and say dot attribute cy d, which is again of type historical data point. We bind it to y, which is d dot price. On the y-axis, we are plotting the price dot attribute. We are going to say that the radius of this circle should be 4 pixels, and why is this not happy? We'll figure it out later. Uh, dot attribute, and I'm going to say fill it based on whatever is the changed color, and dot on. Now we are going to do some event listener. I'm going to say dot on mouse over. Okay, on mouse over, which means if there is a mouse going over that data point, I want to call create a function. Okay, the function will have the event and a data point, which will be of type historical data point. And now this function will be immediately invoked technically. And what do we want to do here? So we want to show the tooltip that we had created. Let's call that tooltip. So const tooltip equals d3 dot select the tooltip ref dot current. And now that we have the tooltip, I'm going to style it. So tooltip dot style, and I'm going to say display block dot style. On the left, you need to be within the event dot page x plus 10 pixels, and from the top, so dot style, from the top you need to be event dot page y minus 25 pixels, so you need to be bit below. Okay, oh, should have done this in a string. Okay, finally. Okay, and then we can just basically do a dot html. So I'm literally going for a html element, creating a html element. uh, I'm going to create a div tag inside a string, and I'm going to say, so what, why are we creating this div tag? Inside this div tag, we will basically show some data. So when you hover over a data point, we want to show a tooltip. So I'm going to just do exactly that. D3.time format, and we'll use the same HH and MM and SS. We'll show a date, And I'm going to copy paste this below, and I'm going to say that show another div. So this will be right below it. So d3 dot price dot to fixed to. Okay, so it will also show the price at that data point. And finally we can do d3 dot select this to get a reference dot attribute. Actually no, ignore. Or I don't no. Okay, ignore. Actually it should be possible, right? Dot attribute, change the radius of that point to 6. So now it will highlight the point, it will increase it in size. Finally, on mouse out, so when the mouse is over that point, then we do all of this. But on mouse out, we also need to hide the tooltip. Okay, because otherwise it will be stuck there. uh, so I'm going to again create a function that does not take any parameter, and I'm going to do d3 dot select tooltip ref dot current, and I'm going to then do a style on it, and I'm going to say display is going to change to none as soon as display is none. So this is CSS way of styling something. Okay, and also since we had increased the zoomed in on the circle, I'm going to say d3 dot select this dot attribute and change the radius to 4 again, which was the initial radius. Okay, now this one is unhappy because type unknown is not assignable to type historical data point. That is fine. Chill. Don't have to worry about it. Okay, so we have done major parts of it. Uh, okay, now let's draw the chart. Let's, before moving into anything else, let's draw a chart. So let's do a use effect. And I am going to say if there is, I can copy this, right? Yeah. So another use effect, another side effect, basically, technically. Uh, so if these things do not exist, return else. It means that these things exist, and we call the draw chart function. Now we can create a const update interval, which is window dot set interval if has enough historical data for that particular selected stock, which means it has at least 5 data points. In that case, you draw the chart. Okay. Why are we doing this? We are basically saying that every 2 seconds, uh, update the chart. And let's do a quick cleanup as well. So on unmount, we want to do a clear interval. This depends on draw chart, historical data, selected stock, stock data, and stocks dot length whenever that changes. So these are the things that it will depend on. Finally, we also should clear the tooltip, right? So I'm going to say use effect and just going to create a cleanup function here. We are just going to say if tooltip ref dot current document dot body dot remove child. We had done an append child before. I'm now going to do a remove child and run it only once. I think this should be enough for a basic chart. Let's check it out. Let's select a stock, Apple, and also I need to increase the size of these things. Hmm. Okay, cool. Now, if I select Apple, there we go, finally. So there are the data points which changes. The circle is not getting drawn, but we will check it in a bit. For the time being, there is this. Need to fix the circle. I have. Okay, okay, hold on. Cool. So what do we have? So we have a line chart drawn for Apple stocks. It goes from USD 85 to 115 because current price is 103. So some bit up, some bit down. 103 kind of falls between here and here. So this is nice. This is showing our prices. This is showing our time. And it starts at this time. It goes up until 850. Now if I switch over to Google, there we go. That's the Google stock. And we can basically go over all the stocks. It is not showing everything yet, but it is showing most of them. Okay. So it is showing most of them. This USD, I think that is too much, too huge, too big. So let me change that USD. Where did I write USD? To actually say dollar. Yes, there's the dollar. So our axis is defined, time is getting hidden. So I think I'm going to say that this should be just 30 on the y-axis. Okay, so that's our time. Our time changes as well. As the chart changes, our time changes as well. Let's quickly take a look at what our this says. Okay, so if I go over to our SVG, this is our x-axis one, this is our y-axis one, and we also have the path getting created. So on every render, it is trying to create the path. It is trying to add the path. You can see that keeps changing too frequently. Should have increased the interval there. But there's the path. That's the line path that it calculates and creates. Okay. Any questions, anyone, before we move ahead? I'm going to hold on. Uh, Color depends on whatever is the historical data returning. Is it going up or going down? That depends on the trend. Also, if you may notice, it is kind of uh, what's the word? Responsive. Yes. Okay. The chart is responsive and it is performant. It is not changing if there is no stock price received for that particular stock. So currently, and finally, we got Nvidia here, and that changed. Okay. Otherwise, it is robust and fine. Okay, actually, let's see. So, what can I improve? So this is fine. This is fine. Historical data is fine. Chart is fine. I can. What if I divide this into two parts? Will it still work? Is a question. Still waiting for any questions. Anyone? Nothing. Everyone understood everything. Okay, cool. Going to take the silence as golden. And okay, let's get back. Uh, Let me think. What can I improve here, which will ensure that it works properly? So it draws the chart. The tooltip ref, I can improve that definitely, and I can change it to. Still thinking. I'm curious why CSS is not working. I definitely wrote the correct CSS. Mm, the CSS is coming from the right place. Yes. Okay. So we have the selected stock one where we wait for enough time. We do stock data, we do historical data, stock change, we drew the draw chart. Uh, I think we do everything properly. So I don't know why CSS is not getting applied. Okay, anyways. Uh, mhm. Okay, I am at a loss as to why the CSS would not work, frankly. So I'm going to leave that bit as is. I'm going to figure it out later. The circles, let's get back to the circles. Uh, mm, Okay, cool. Uh, let's do this. This would be an ideal way. Can I remove most of the code? Should I? This is fine. This is fine. Stock chart, margin, props. Let's remove most of the code. Uh, Actually, let me first post this so that you all have a reference to the code that we wrote, and then we can. This is yep correct place. Git status. This was git add git commit dash m session 6 initial no uh line chart complete, line chart of stock data, and git push. So this is our initial version. uh okay, next, what else we need to fix? The tooltip part, also the circle part, which is not working. What else do I need to fix? I think that's good enough actually for the fixing. Nothing else comes to my mind. Mm, okay, let's do this. If I don't have timer ref dot current, so we start with this. Just removing a bits and pieces of code which are bad for performance, but they should do the trick. So I'm going to go for that. We are waiting time for data. That's fine. Margin is fine. Stock chart. Okay. Selected stock is there. Data ready. Yes. SVG ref, tooltip ref. And we can basically remove most of these pieces of code. And we can remove this as well. And we can remove this as well. And I can say if there is a selected stock, uh, and if it has enough data, uh, set data ready to true. That's it. And starts here. Oh, I missed out on a closing bracket. Okay, so we can actually. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, so if there is a selected stock and it has enough historical data, in that case, set the data ready to true. I've got rid of timer ref just for the sake of it for the time being. I'm not going to go for performance. We need the stock data to find the selected stock, of course. We need the historical data. So in historical data, we are saying if there is no selected stock or uh, there's no stock data, in that case, return an empty array. We get the storage data, which we definitely need. If the length is less than 5, again, we return. And finally, we return a storage data.map, which is the data itself. And this entry can create a use effect for tooltip here quickly. So use effect, and I'm going to say use effect. In this effect, we'll do the tooltip ref very quickly. So if there is no tooltip ref dot current, in that case, we will just create the tooltip. So we did that a moment ago. So I'm going to just cut and paste that. Don't need this. Is fine. This is fine. Draw chart. Yep. This. I'm going to paste this in a separate use ref, and I'm going to, yeah, it's just doing the same thing. If not tooltip ref.current, then we create element div, assign the class name as tooltip, display is initially none, and append child, and this runs only once on the mount. Okay, and I'm not going to clean it for the time being. So I'm going to, so this needs to be there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to do this cleanup for the time being. Just going to comment it out. Uh, okay, let's go to our draw chart. If not SVG ref.current or not selected stock or not stop data or this, yep, return, fine. Uh, drawing chart, this is fine. This is selecting all elements and removing them. Then we are doing svg ref.current on this one to get the client width, which is fine. Subtracting from margin left and right and top and bottom dot ref. Yep, this is fine. And translate. Last time it was a spelling mistake. I think this is correct this time. Perfect. Uh, dot scale scale time domain d3 dot extend historical data such that let's go easy. D dot date as date comma date dot range 0 to width. Y-axis scale linear domain d3 dot minimum. Uh, I'm going to explicitly give it this so that I have small code. Historical data d dot sorry, scale linear domain d3 dot min historical data depending on price. Also going to remove this, and I'm going to say this is fine actually. Yep, that this exists. Okay, so I'm going to tell TypeScript that yep, these values exist. So d3 dot min on historical data d dot price, these exist, and d3 dot max historical data d dot price, and it exists. Dot range height to 0, perfect. svg dot append transform g transform translate call access bottom text 5 tick format is this one, which is a date. And mm, okay, let me remove all of this. Let's keep it simple and small. svg dot append g dot call 3, and this is tick format, and we are not going to define the size, so let's say this is just this much. And price changes is fine. Dot append path historical data fill is none, class is line path. Do I have it defined actually? Now that I think about it, yep, I do, which is line path. Okay, same size, same CSS again. Technically, so not really needed, but it's okay. Uh, fill none, stroke is change color, stroke width, and attribute is there, line historical. I'm going to just remove these two parts. Okay. So dot x, we are binding the function with x d dot date, and y is y on the y-axis. We are plotting the price. Now we are going to do a select all on the data point dot. Okay, I think I know dot data. No, actually, it should still work. Historical data dot enter dot append a circle. Does this work? Yep, there we go. Oof. So why did Apple not work? Yeah, there we go. Apple works as well. Finally. So there's our data point, and this is a tooltip as well on it. Okay. Now this is the better one. So now we have our line chart plotted for our stocks at some time interval. And as the new data point come in, there we go. It plots the new data point 62.459, 62.04. Let's remember that. And then let's wait for the new Apple stock price to be received in the latest update. 62.04. Come on, the stock that I'm desperately waiting for is not getting updated. Yeah, there we go. So 62.04 and then 63.22. There's the increase. And then the stock went down. Oops, 60.37. So there was a downward trend. And yeah, that's it. That is our line chart with a tooltip as well as like that extra additional that hover effect. Okay. So this is what I missed before. And it's like, why it does not work? Okay, cool. So this is, I'm going to add an addendum to the previous commit. I'm going to force push it. Yep, I know, unfortunate, but it is what it is. You can find all the commits right here. Okay, so I had forgotten to bind the data, but thankfully we all figured it out. uh, so this is fine, and I think this works, right? Woohoo! uh, we could technically remove a lot of things from this, frankly. Duh, 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 duh. I think we can also remove the interval. So it can go from these many lines to, I don't know how much. Any questions, anyone? Sorry, before we move ahead. Okay, so the next bit that I want to do is zoom in and zoom and panning. Okay, so zooming and panning. I think I have enough time to actually do zooming and panning here. So let's do that. So zooming and panning, again, some of the normal chart features that you will have. Uh, yeah. So some of the normal chart features that you will have would be related to, let's say, zooming and panning, saying that, okay, I want to zoom into the chart to, let's say, focus on a singular data point, or I want to move, like once I'm zoomed in, I want to pan around. Uh, so we could do like add those features. Now D3 gives us some really nice APIs to do it. We did it as part of our other project. Let me just quickly go over there. D3 mini projects, scatter and script. Okay. So there is this SVG transition, and we have this D3.zoom where we can provide it with a scale. Yeah. Uh, yeah, we can provide, like we can do D3.zoom, which is a feature on D3 itself. Let's go over there quickly. Yeah, there we go. So D3.zoom applies the zoom behavior on the specified selection. In our case, the selection would actually be the whole thing, right? The whole chart area. And on Zoom, so there is a event listener called as Zoom. Whenever that happens, then we can tell it what to do. In our case, previously we were like expanding on the circle sizes and stuff, but like we can do anything. Uh, in our stock chart, we will zoom in to the line chart. So we'll see the data points, we'll see technically everything. Yeah, a zoomed in version of the whole thing. Uh, mm, 1 second. Just finding my notes on the zooming. Sorry. Okay, cool. Before we do the zooming, what I'm thinking is let's quickly. So I'm going to paste what I had before uh, for my chart. So what I had created before I went down the rabbit hole of improving and improvising it, I had a minimal version which was working fine. Uh, so I'm going to just paste that version right now in the code so that you can see a difference. So we can do a quick diff on it. I don't need this. Okay. So this was the minimal version that I had before I started uh, going down the timer roads and be like, you know what, we should improvise it. And then I messed up on it, and yeah, I couldn't improvise it properly uh, with everything. So what I had was very simple. We still have the same things, the same ideologies. So actually, in this case, things that do not need to change, let me leave that and leave them as is. Uh, this is fine. And when this part was okay, historical data. I have the idea of writing shorthand, and we need this. Okay. Uh, on change move, I had written it inside here, but I wrote it outside so that I could show console logs, but don't need it anymore. That's fine. Uh, this is again a shorthand way of writing it, but you can leave that as is. Console log, you can use it on your own accord. So that is also okay. I had left comment. I did not have comments there, but you can. Uh, okay. So ideally, we could reduce most of it down if you want. I did not do this. I had done this like right now, but I think this is a good idea to have, right? And also this price tag. I think this is also a good idea to have. Uh, okay, let's get this back. This is for the attribute in the CSS file, which we are not using. I had gone for this color, but we can go back to the change color. Mouse over, that is fine. Tooltip should work. Mouse out, that's fine. Uh, Again, this is shorthand way, but you can have the long way of writing it as needed. Did not add the interval. I added it right now, but I guess you don't need it really. Chart area, and I had set the minimum height. Okay, perfect. Uh, so it will still work. It will look better. So on the first select, it does not select anything. Uh, Reason being, I don't think it gets mounted properly. So we need to fix that part. But otherwise, it should still work the same. There is your tooltip, there are your data points, and it plots everything properly with the time range. Uh, X and Y axis text, you can add it back. I had not added it. I Yeah, we'll leave it at this. So this is session 6, minimal version, you can say. So git add, git commit dash m, session 6, line chart minimal, without all the timer refs and all, because you don't really need them. It's a nice to have. You make your code robust, but again, you don't really need them. Okay, so coming back to this one. So for zooming, let's focus on the zooming part. So as finally I found my notes, uh, I'm going to create another variable, use state variable. Let's call it zoom transform and set zoom transform. And that is nothing but a use state. And now the type of this, I'm going to use D3 for this. I'm going to say it is of type D3.zoom transform, or it could be null. By default, it is null. So this is like you're going to use D3 to do the like take care of all the headache of zooming types, because well, D3 has everything, right? So okay, so now we had calculated our x and y somewhere. I'm going to add a to do here. Fix the unmount. If anyone wants to raise a PR which fixes the unmount, go for it. So we did the X and Y axis, and right after this, I'm going to create a const ZX. So zooming on the X axis, where I'll say if there is a zoom transform, okay, then in that case, zoom transform dot rescale the X axis, else go for whatever is the normal. Const zy, which is zoom transform. If zoom transform, then in that case, zoom transform dot rescale y on the y-axis, else the normal y. Okay, so we have created this x and zx and zy. These are to apply the zoom transform if they exist. Now, where can we use? So on the axis bottom, I can say instead of x, this is zx. Okay. And here on the y-axis, where we are doing append g, we are calling d3 dot axis left. Instead of y, this is zy. Okay. So what have we done? We have said that instead of relying on the x-axis scale and the y-axis scale, rely on the zoomed axis scale. So if a zoom happens, then change the axis sizes accordingly, change the axis values accordingly. This was our previous one. Now, if a zoom happens, currently it is not. Okay, currently the zoom does not work, but it will. So this axis also needs to be zoomed in a bit. This axis also needs to be zoomed in to accommodate whatever is the data that you see here, right? So yeah, that is why we are changing it to zx and zy. Similarly, when we draw the line, where was it? We are drawing the line here. We can say that actually on dot x, this is zx, and on dot y, this is zy. Perfect. And where we are drawing the circles, we can also do that zx and zy. So everything is zoomed in. And now, as you can see, our ESLint, thanks to our ESLint, it says that, oh, you have a dependency on that zoom transform, but it is not in this array of dependencies. So let's add it. Cool. Now, let's actually write the code for zooming. Okay. So we now set up the zoom behavior. So right after this return statement, and before we start, or we can actually move the draw chart to another use effect. So I'm going to say use effect. Now this depends on the draw chart. Perfect. And we don't need this here then, because, well, it does not need. It is dependent on selected stock data, and historical data. Perfect. Okay, so we have a separate use effect for the drawing of the chart. Now let's write code in this use effect to zoom in. So I'm going to say const width equals svg ref dot current dot client width minus margin dot left minus margin dot right. Okay, so we are calculating what is the margin width, what is the width, available width after zooming in and out. So height, we are going to say that depends on client height, and it again subtract. So the zoomable area is this and this. Okay, now let's do the zoom part. So const zoom equals d3 dot zoom, which I showed you like a moment ago, and we can give it type if you want. So svg element comma unknown. I'm not sure what the second type is. So scale extend, and I'm going to say that you scale down by 0.5 and scale up to 10. Okay, so you go 0.5%, let's say technically, or 0.5. Yeah, zoom out by 2.5 and zoom in. Maximum you can go is 10x zoom. uh, I don't know how much Oppo and Vivo phones now have. 50 megapixel zoom, 100x zoom, I don't know. Translate extend, I don't know even what Apple has. uh, Translate extend, we go from 0 up until width height. So this is, you can think of it as very similar to your domain range. Dot extend, think it should be similar to this one. Okay. So translate extend, it translates the extend to the specified array of points from where to where you want to zoom in. And extend again is sets the viewport extend to the specified array points. And on, now we add the zoom event listener. If you remember event listeners, so event, which event, whenever this event happens, in that case we set the zoom transform to the event dot transform. Okay, finally we can do const sv, not finally, yeah, finally, yeah, const svg selection. We can basically say equals d3 dot select. We are selecting our svg ref dot current, uh, and svg selection dot call zoom. So this will allow the zooming functionality. Now if we want, actually let's first try this out. Let's reload this. So you saw that even though there was no chart, uh, the tooltip remained there. That is why we need to on unmount, we need to clear it. For some reason that causes issues. Okay, so zoom, and now if I do mouse zoom, as you can see, it zooms in. Okay, I think the extent I should change it to, okay, zoom out 0.5. See, it remains even though there is nothing, it remains. So that's the bad idea. But you can zoom out. Why is it not inside the container? I have some messed up CSS somewhere. Okay. Anyways, so zooming in works. Uh, how do I zoom out? Currently, there is, you have to manually do it, but we can add, because we know event listeners. Hello, 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 hello. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Can you hear me? Can someone just reply on the chat? I'd be very grateful. Or I'll have to check on my phone if the Twitch stream is still live. Okay, Twitch stream is still live, so I think I'm there. Sorry about that. I don't know. I think I hit the back button by mistake. Oops. So Mac is good, but also bad when you do a two-finger swipe or three-finger swipe. Uh, okay, cool. Coming back. Hopefully you all can hear me. Hello, hello, hello. And okay, so we can add a very quick double click to reset the zoom. So we can say that svg selection dot on, again event listener, and there is a dbl click dot zoom. So double click dot zoom, and what we need to do is we need to transition out. We need to set the scale back to what it was. So I'm going to do svg selection dot transition. We know what transition does. It gives this animation effect. So we can give it some time that, oh, do it over 500 milliseconds. Dot call. And we can do a zoom dot transform and d3 dot zoom identity, and we can set the zoom transform to d3 dot zoom identity. Zoom identity is d3's function call to that, and I think that should work. I think this should work. Let me see. Okay, so transform its selection, like sets the current zoom transform on the selected element, and zoom identity. It basically scales it down. Let's go over to a stock. I have to always choose a second stock. Now let's say if I have zoomed in and I do a double click, there we go, zoom out. I can use mouse to also scroll and zoom in. And as you can see, the y-axis changes depending on the scale. The x-axis also changes, like moves around as I move around on screen. I don't know why it is. It should not cross the line as well, so I need to fix that bit. Uh, but otherwise, I think this is good enough. And if I do a double click, I don't know if you can hear it on the mouse, like double click, uh, zoom in, double click, and zoom out. Okay, so that's our, I think, D3 charting a bit done, right? So we have successfully done a lot of things. Let me zoom out here. Uh, Netflix, zoomed out. We only keep the last 100 points. So if you have more than that, it also chops it off from the chart. But you can have more points as and when they go along. For the line, if you remember, I think we had done that in one of the session. Where is it? In line chart script.js, I think we had a initial data curve. Yes. So we are not doing line, we are doing a path. Hmm. Yes, right here we can also change the curve. Oops, double dots, bad idea. No, this perfect. So now we have a more squiggly kind of lines instead of those edgy lines that we had before. So now I don't know, this gives a better overview, gives a less sharp view of the market, and zoom in, zoom out, all those things will still work, of course. Okay. And zoomed out to 0.5%. This is bad. I don't know. I'll have to check what happens there. But anyways, I think this is the perfect point to stop. Uh, you don't necessarily need to only draw one chart. You can have multiple charts on the screen if you need. Uh, so I think that could also be a very good idea to have, that multiple charts on screen, right? Uh, Let me push this bit before before I talk further. Uh, oh, mm, Git status, git add all, git commit session 6 line zoom and pan. Okay, so technically pan works as well, right? If I have zoomed in and I go left, right by clicking on my left mouse button and moving it, that works. Up, down works as well. So zoom and pan work. Zoom and pan functionality added and git push. So now you have another charting library to your disposal. And like I say charting library, but if you remember on day one, I said that it is not a charting library. It is what's the word? It is a visualization library. Okay, because since you have access to SVG, and you have a low level access to SVG, you don't have to draw it in a line example here. You can give it your own points and tell it that, oh, you know what, I want you to be in this shape or this format, or like, the world is your oyster at that point. So yeah, I would say that now with this new charting, sorry, visualization, my bad, with this new visualization library, you can, let's say, draw a map. So I had seen this the other day. I'm trying to find it quickly. I think let me open WhatsApp. I think it was on my WhatsApp. I hope my WhatsApp opens on this screen. Yep, it did. uh, I'm checking quickly one thing, so hold on for a minute. I can't find it. So the other day, I had seen a really nice visualization, which was the COVID-19 virus image, if you remember. So the coronavirus COVID-19 virus image. So someone had drawn that in an SVG, and each of those lines that come out from that coronavirus. Actually, I can find an image, right? Coronavirus image. Icon. Icon with country names, data visualization. I'm going to add all these things. Okay, it doesn't show you. But so that one had this very interesting one, because so all these points that come out, you can think of it as the data points, and it had like which countries had the maximum uh, casualties and uh, yeah, stuff like that. So, like, interesting visualization, like what this is about and it gives you that reference point, like one is big, one is small, tiny, and yeah, it was a pretty cool visualization, let's say. And as I said, the world is your oyster in this scenario, because you can technically build any sort of visualization and yeah, showcase that. Okay. So the final part would be that you can, like, this is more of me talking. I'll leave it all to you, but I can give you a quick overview of what you would need to do if you want to, let's say, have multiple selections. So multiple selection is going to be very easy. Currently, we have this idea of a selected stock that should change to the idea of selected stocks. Okay, so it will be an array. That's the first thing. The second thing is now we need to get the historical data. So previously we were checking if, like, let's say one stock has enough data. Now we need to check if all the selected stocks have enough data. Third thing is remember this selected stock. For one selected stock, we were finding the if the symbol matches in our yeah, in the stocks data that we have received. Now you will need to change that to say that for all the selected symbols that the user is selecting, please find the matches. Okay, so uh, yeah, that would be one thing. To select multiple, that is easy. All you need to do is here in the select, you can just say multiple, and this on change that will need to change. I think you will need to create a separate function altogether for it. Let's see if this works. If I do a multi select, actually this would technically. So if I do apple, and okay, this does not allow it because the on change actually sets it to 1. Okay, so we can create a quick function here, const handle stock change. So we are going back and we can say that it takes an event. Not going to type it out, but I can say const selected equals array dot from, and this would be event dot target dot selected options. I think it's better to type it out. I don't remember from the top of my head. React dot change event, and this would be HTML select element. Yes, so now it is typed. Yeah, this is correct. Select options, and then we can say there's a callback for an option. We can say this is option dot value, and we can now console dot log the selected parameter, and I'm going to filter it out on ut underscore debug, and we take this function and right here on the on change we can set this to the size, and size we can say we can actually math dot min. So maximum you're allowed to select, let's say 6 stocks, right? I think that's a fair enough point. Okay, so now if I go back and I open my console and I do ut underscore debug and I choose 1, so it has array of 1. If I choose, why is it not allowing me to choose 2? Because value is selected stock currently, not stocks. That's why. Oof. Yeah, there we go. So now I can hold down my like control or command depending on which device you are on. I can hold down like, let's say this, so I can get back the size. So Sorry, that was my mistake. I can get back the size and I can say that you're allowed to choose 6 values. And if you notice, I have nothing. I do a reload. Apple selected has just Apple, but I can hold down command and now selected has Apple and Google. And now it has 3, command 4, command 5, command 6, command 7. Oh, it does allow 7. So max. But size does not work. I don't know why. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Interesting. I'll have to check MDN for that bit. Oh, that's for the size of how many options should be shown at once. Where did my code go? I want to show 15. Will that make a difference? I don't know. I don't know if we have enough space to show 15 options. But I'm pretty sure we can limit how many you can select at a time. We can write some JavaScript for it. I don't remember how I had done it, but yeah, you could do that as well. So that is our size element size to choose how many elements do you want to show at a time. And yeah, so once you have like selected multiple, then based on that you can basically decide, uh, you can have a separate, like update the variable selected stock to selected stocks, and yeah, just work with them. That would be ideal. Show multiple charts. It You won't need to do many changes. uh, all you need to say is to the data points, you have to say that I want to draw multiple lines. Okay, so your SVG for creating the line, which is, where did it go? Yeah, this is the SVG which actually creates the line chart. You'll have to loop over this, so you can go like, for each selected stock in list of in selected stocks. So for each stock in stocks, I want to draw a line. That's it. It's done. It's that simple and that easy. Okay. So that is the end of our D3.js sessions, where we started with some pretty basics and we achieved, uh, I would say, a lot, frankly. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope that I will see you in the next GHW. And for the time being, let me just fix this. Who is complaining? Set selected stock. That's what I did. Set selected stock to selected of 0. There we go. Perfect. Change to multiple. Git add, git commit session 6. Uh, Multiple stock selection theory. Okay, so no practical, no code, just the theory. And yep, that is the end of my time. I hope you all enjoyed the sessions, all 6 sessions, and you have learned something. You can give it a try. And other than that, I guess this is a goodbye. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And next up, you can join Alberto for doing a real world IoT project part 1. And before I go, a very quick public service announcement, which is the feedback form. So this was, as I said, like I don't know how many times that this was the final session, so session 6. So if you take a look at the feedback form, you can just quickly fill that for part 6, give feedback on how do you like this session. And I guess, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. And I will see you in the next Global Hack Week. Cheers. Bye bye. And the code is on GitHub. Okay. So take a look at that. Cheers.